Have you ever stood in front of a loved one's grave and felt something indescribable, as if they were still right there beside you? Maybe you've caught a familiar scent, like the perfume they used to wear, or heard a song tied to a cherished memory, just when they crossed your mind. Moments like these stir something deep within us, making us wonder, could it be a sign that their soul still lingers near? Today, we're embarking on a journey to explore one of life's greatest mysteries. Do souls return to their graves after death? Through stories, psychology, science, and cultural traditions, we'll unravel the profound connection between the living and the departed. But before we dive in, let me ask you, have you ever had an unexplainable experience that felt like a message from a loved one who has passed? If you have, I invite you to share your story in the comments below. Your experiences could bring comfort and connection to others walking a similar path of loss. If this topic resonates with you, please give this video a thumbs up to let others know they're not alone. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more heartfelt explorations like this one. And if you know someone who might find solace in understanding this eternal bond, share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need. Together, let's not only seek answers, but also find hope and healing through our shared stories and reflections. Let's begin this journey together. Across the world and throughout history, one truth unites us all: the desire to connect with those we've lost. Every culture, every tradition, and every heart has its own way of holding on to the bonds that transcend the boundary of life and death. Take, for example, the ancient Egyptians. They believed the soul continued its journey into the afterlife and required careful preparation. Majestic pyramids were built to serve as eternal homes for the deceased, filled with treasures, provisions, and even prayers to ensure a peaceful transition. This wasn't just an act of devotion. It was a declaration that love and connection persist beyond death. In Japan, the Obon festival illuminates this belief beautifully. Families light lanterns to guide the spirits of their ancestors back home, offering food and prayers to honor them. The festival becomes a celebration of love, gratitude, and reunion, as families reflect on how the wisdom and sacrifices of those who came before still shape their lives. On the other side of the world, Mexico's vibrant Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, shows us another way people keep their loved ones close. During this celebration, families create altars adorned with marigolds, photographs, and the favorite foods of the deceased. They tell stories, laugh, and remember their loved ones, not in mourning, but in joy. This tradition teaches us that honoring the dead isn't just about grief. It's about celebrating the lives they lived and the memories they left behind. But what about the moments that transcend cultural rituals? Have you ever smelled your grandmother's perfume when no one else was around? Or dreamed of someone you've lost, only to wake up feeling as though they had visited you? These moments spark a profound question. Are these mere coincidences? Or are they signs that our loved ones are still with us in some way? Modern science offers intriguing explanations. Psychologists often describe these experiences as part of the grieving process. After losing someone dear, our minds become hyper-aware of anything connected to them. A fleeting scent or a familiar song may be our brain's way of keeping their memory alive. Yet, even with these explanations, many of us feel that these experiences are far too personal and meaningful to dismiss as random. In fact, stories from around the world suggest there may be more to these experiences. In India, some believe that the soul hovers near the body for a period of time before fully departing, which is why specific rituals are performed to guide the soul on its journey. Meanwhile, indigenous cultures often view death not as an ending but as a transformation, with the soul continuing to exist in nature, as part of the wind, the trees, or even the stars. These universal beliefs share a common theme. Love and connection do not end with death. Instead, they evolve into something intangible but deeply felt, whether through dreams, rituals, or signs that seem to come from nowhere. Humanity has always found ways to keep the bonds alive. Now, let me ask you, have you ever experienced something you couldn't explain? Something that felt like a sign from someone you've lost? Maybe it was a strange coincidence, an object that appeared when you needed it most, or a comforting dream Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might inspire or comfort someone else who is searching for answers. If you found this journey into the universal bond between the living and the dead meaningful, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to join a community where we explore life's biggest questions together. And don't forget to share this video with someone who might need a little comfort today. Together, let's keep these eternal bonds alive through our stories, reflections, and connections. The loss of a loved one is one of life's most profound experiences, and it leaves us searching for meaning in the moments that follow. In these times, many of us encounter phenomena we can't easily explain. Dreams so vivid they feel real, coincidences that seem too perfect, or sensations that bring back memories in an instant. Are these signs from beyond? Or is there a scientific explanation for what we experience during grief? Psychologists and neuroscientists have spent decades studying how loss affects the human mind. One of their most fascinating discoveries is how grief can heighten our senses. After the loss of a loved one, the brain enters a state of hyperawareness, attuned to even the smallest details that remind us of the person we've lost. A faint whiff of their favorite cologne, the sound of a familiar song playing on the radio, or a sudden feeling of warmth in an empty room can all trigger an emotional response. This phenomenon is deeply connected to the way our brains process memory. Memories of our loved ones aren't just stored in one place. They're woven into our entire sensory system. When we lose someone, our subconscious works tirelessly to preserve those memories, often bringing them to the surface in unexpected ways. These moments feel deeply personal and, to many, undeniably real. But there's more. Have you ever heard of near-death experiences, NDEs? These are accounts from people who have come close to death and returned to share their stories. Remarkably, many of these stories share common themes: feelings of immense peace, encounters with deceased loved ones, and even the sensation of leaving their physical body and observing the world from above. Skeptics argue that these experiences can be explained by the brain's activity during moments of extreme trauma. Studies have shown that when the body is under immense stress, the brain releases a surge of chemicals, creating vivid hallucinations and sensations. However, others believe these experiences are far more than biological reactions. They may be glimpses into another realm where the soul exists beyond the physical body. Take the story of Dr. Mary Neal, a spinal surgeon who drowned in a kayaking accident. During the moments she was clinically dead, she described being surrounded by an overwhelming sense of love and light and encountering family members who had passed away. When she was resuscitated, she shared her experience, believing it was evidence of life after death. Stories like hers blur the line between science and spirituality, leaving us to wonder, what if these experiences hold a deeper truth? And then there are dreams, those vivid, sometimes comforting visions of loved ones who have passed. Psychologists explain that during REM sleep, our brain processes emotions and memories, often blending them into dreams. But many people feel these dreams go beyond the mind's workings. They describe conversations that feel real, messages that offer comfort, and even warnings or guidance. Could these be the work of our subconscious? Or are they visits from another plane of existence? Interestingly, science has uncovered phenomena that further fuel these questions. Studies on electromagnetic fields, EMFs, have revealed unusual activity around cemeteries and places where people have reported feeling the presence of spirits. While some dismiss these findings as anomalies, others see them as evidence that energy, possibly even the energy of a soul, lingers after death. Grief, as it turns out, is both deeply personal and universally human. It's a journey that blends psychology, biology, and spirituality in ways we're only beginning to understand. Some find comfort in scientific explanations, believing that the brain's response to loss is a natural way to preserve the memory of those we love. Others take solace in the possibility that the sensations, dreams, and signs we experience are proof of a deeper connection, a bond that even death cannot break. What about you? Have you ever had an experience that made you question the boundaries between life and death? Maybe it was a dream, a sign, or a moment that felt too meaningful to be a coincidence. Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If this exploration of the psychology and science of loss has resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Together, let's continue to uncover the mysteries of life, loss, and the connections that endure. Cemeteries, often seen as peaceful resting places for the departed, carry with them an undeniable sense of mystery. Beneath their serene exterior, these spaces hold countless stories, some strange, some eerie, and some downright impossible to explain. Throughout history, cemeteries have been the backdrop to ghostly tales and bizarre occurrences that continue to intrigue and bewilder those who encounter them. It is said that cemeteries, as the final resting places of the deceased, can be the boundary between the living and the spirit world, where the two may sometimes meet in ways that defy reason. Ghostly apparitions are perhaps the most well-known phenomena associated with cemeteries. Many visitors and paranormal enthusiasts have shared stories of encountering spirits wandering the graveyards, or experiencing inexplicable sensations of being watched. In some of the oldest and most famous cemeteries, such as St. Louis Cemetery in New Orleans, stories of ghost sightings and strange sounds are abundant. Visitors claim to have heard footsteps, whispered voices, or even witnessed figures moving between the graves under the cover of night. These eerie experiences often lead to the belief that cemeteries are not just places of silence and remembrance, but realms where the living and the dead can briefly share a moment. But ghostly sightings are just the beginning. Many cemeteries have earned notoriety for the mysterious tales surrounding specific graves. Take, for example, the grave of Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein. Her tomb has long been a subject of fascination for both literary fans and those drawn to the supernatural. Over the years, there have been numerous reports of strange lights or shadowy figures near her grave, accompanied by sudden, unexplained temperature drops. While some might dismiss these stories as coincidences, others find it hard to ignore the eerie connection between the author of one of the most famous ghost stories and the supernatural events surrounding her own resting place. Then there is the tragic and unsettling tale of Rufina Cambyses, whose grave in Buenos Aires' La Recoleta Cemetery has become a chilling symbol of mistaken death. In 1902, Rufina was prematurely declared dead and buried, only for her body to be discovered later showing signs that she had been alive when entombed. The horror of being buried alive is something that has fueled countless myths, and Rufina's grave has become one of the most mysterious and terrifying spots in the cemetery. This story is just one example of how cemeteries hold not only the physical remains of the dead, but also the heavy burden of unexplained and tragic events. In addition to ghostly figures and mysterious graves, there are also numerous accounts of strange phenomena occurring in cemeteries. Visitors often report feeling sudden chills, hearing unexplained sounds, or seeing mysterious lights drifting through the graves. These lights, often described as glowing orbs or faint flickers of light, are particularly common in cemeteries that are older and have a long history. The source of these lights remains a subject of debate, with some attributing them to natural causes, such as swamp gas or the reflection of light on mist. However, others believe that these glowing orbs are more than just optical illusions. They may be manifestations of spirits trying to communicate with the living. For many, these experiences are not just coincidence. They serve as evidence of something more. The idea that cemeteries are spaces where the boundaries between the living and the dead are not so clearly defined is a powerful one. It taps into our deepest fears and hopes about what happens after death. Are we truly gone? Or do we leave behind traces that can be sensed by those who remain? Cemeteries are places where the answers to these questions may lie hidden, waiting to be discovered. In the end, the stories and mysteries of cemeteries remind us that death is not a simple ending. It is a transition, and cemeteries serve as the threshold between this world and the next. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, there is no denying the allure and mystery that cemeteries hold. They are places where stories live on, not just in the memories of those who have passed, but in the eerie occurrences and unexplainable phenomena that continue to captivate the living. These mysteries serve as a reminder that even in death, there may still be connections to the unknown. Cultural practices surrounding death and mourning have a profound emotional impact, not only on the individuals who experience loss, but also on entire communities. These rituals provide a framework for processing grief, honoring the deceased, and navigating the complex emotions that arise when someone we love passes away. While the specifics of these practices vary across cultures, they all serve a common purpose: to help the living cope with the emotional turmoil of death, create a sense of continuity, and maintain a spiritual connection with the departed. One of the most universally recognized cultural practices associated with death is the funeral. Funerals, regardless of their specific traditions, serve as a rite of passage, marking the transition from life to death. In many cultures, the funeral is a solemn and sacred event that allows family and friends to gather, share their grief, and express their emotions. The act of honoring the deceased through a formal service or ceremony can be a cathartic experience, providing individuals with a space to process their sorrow and reflect on the life of the person who has passed. Funerals can bring closure, offering a sense of finality that helps those left behind to begin the healing process. In Western cultures, the funeral often includes religious rituals, such as prayers, hymns, or eulogies, which offer comfort and hope for the soul's journey after death. The presence of family and friends, the act of laying the deceased to rest, and the formal acknowledgement of their life through rituals help mourners feel that the person's life has been valued and remembered. These practices allow for the emotional release of grief, but they also play a crucial role in helping the living move forward. The emotional impact of these funeral practices cannot be overstated, as they provide structure and support during one of the most emotionally challenging times in life. In contrast, many non-Western cultures have unique and deeply emotional traditions that help individuals and families navigate the mourning process. In Mexico, the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, is one of the most important cultural celebrations, where families gather to honor and remember their deceased loved ones. This holiday, which takes place on November 1st and 2nd, combines indigenous beliefs with Catholic traditions, and its emotional impact on participants is profound. Families create altars, known as ofrendas, adorned with photographs, candles, and offerings of food, flowers, and mementos to welcome the spirits of the departed back to the world of the living. Rather than a somber occasion, Dia de los Muertos is a celebration of life, where the emotional connection between the living and the dead is nurtured and maintained. The emotional effect of Dia de los Muertos is profound because it allows individuals to actively remember and interact with their ancestors. The practice of inviting the spirits back for a brief moment is a powerful way to keep the bond between the living and the dead alive. It offers comfort, allowing individuals to express love, gratitude, and sorrow for their loved ones who have passed. The vibrant celebrations and communal participation create an emotional environment where grief is expressed not through sadness but through joy, remembrance, and togetherness. Similarly, in Japan, the practice of obon serves as a way to honor and reconnect with deceased ancestors. Obon, celebrated in mid-August, is rooted in Buddhist traditions and involves ceremonies and rituals intended to welcome the spirits of the dead back to their homes. The emotional impact of obon on families is deeply felt, as the rituals provide an opportunity to express respect and gratitude for the deceased while also reaffirming the family's connection to its ancestors. During obon, families gather to perform dances, light lanterns, and offer prayers, creating a collective experience that reinforces the bond between generations. The spiritual significance of obon is profound, as it is a time for reflection on life, death, and the continuity of family. In other parts of the world, cultural practices surrounding death take on different forms. For example, in Ghana, the Asani people celebrate the stool burial, a unique funeral tradition where the deceased stool, symbolizing their soul and position within the community, is buried alongside them. This practice serves as both a tribute to the deceased and a means of connecting the living with their ancestors. It is a powerful reminder of the continuity of life and death within the community, and it holds significant emotional weight for those involved in the ceremony. In India, the rituals surrounding death are shaped by Hindu traditions, where the body is cremated and the ashes are scattered in holy rivers. These practices carry emotional significance for the family, who believe that the soul is liberated through the cremation process. The emotional release experience during the rituals provides a sense of closure, while the act of scattering the ashes signifies the return of the soul to the eternal cycle of life and death. Cultural practices also influence the way in which grief is experienced and expressed. In some cultures, grief is a highly public experience, where mourning rituals are performed in the presence of family and community. In other cultures, grief is more private, with individuals processing their emotions in solitude or within their immediate family. The emotional impact of these practices can vary significantly, but the common thread is the role of tradition in helping individuals cope with the loss of a loved one. Moreover, these cultural practices offer a sense of continuity that transcends the individual. They allow for the creation of rituals that can be passed down through generations, helping families and communities stay connected to their cultural heritage. The emotional impact of these practices extends beyond the immediate experience of grief, as they create a legacy of remembrance and respect for those who came before. In conclusion, the cultural practices surrounding death and mourning play a vital role in shaping the emotional landscape of grief. Whether through funerals, memorial services, or annual celebrations, these rituals provide individuals with a framework for expressing their sorrow, honoring their loved ones, and maintaining a connection with the deceased. They offer comfort and healing, creating a space for reflection, remembrance, and emotional release. These practices not only help individuals cope with loss, but also reinforce the sense of continuity that binds generations together, ensuring that the emotional impact of death is felt not only in the present but across time. Personal reflections on death and loss often lead to profound insights that help individuals make sense of their emotions, heal from grief, and create a meaningful relationship with their memories. Everyone processes loss differently, and as we reflect on these experiences, we are often faced with the opportunity to learn lessons that shape the way we live and love. These lessons, derived from our personal reflections, are invaluable tools for navigating the complex emotions that death brings. They allow us to find strength and resilience in moments of vulnerability, creating a bridge between the past and the present, the living and the deceased. One of the first lessons that often emerges through personal reflection is the importance of cherishing the present moment. The inevitability of death serves as a reminder that time is finite, and this realization can inspire a deeper appreciation for the fleeting moments we share with those we love. Many people who have experienced the death of a loved one report a heightened awareness of the importance of living in the present, being fully engaged in relationships, and expressing affection and gratitude before it is too late. In reflecting on these experiences, we come to understand that life is not guaranteed, and each day presents an opportunity to make lasting memories with those who matter most. This awareness also leads to the lesson of prioritizing meaningful connections over material pursuits. Often, people caught in the rush of daily life can become consumed by work, responsibilities, and the pursuit of external success. However, the loss of someone we care about can prompt a shift in priorities. Reflecting on the time spent with the departed, we may realize that the true value of life lies not in what we accumulate or achieve, but in the relationships we nurture, the moments of kindness we extend, and the love we give and receive. This lesson helps us reevaluate our goals and encourages us to live with intention, placing value on the things that truly matter. Another profound reflection that often arises from the experience of loss is the realization that healing is not a linear process. Grief, like love, has no set timeline or prescribed way of being felt. The journey through mourning can be unpredictable, with waves of sadness, anger, regret, and acceptance coming and going without warning. In reflecting on these emotional fluctuations, we learn to embrace the impermanence of grief. Healing does not mean erasing the pain or forgetting the loved one. It means finding a way to coexist with the loss, to carry the memory forward in a way that honors the past without letting it dictate our future. This lesson teaches us patience with ourselves, as we give ourselves the grace to heal at our own pace. One of the most powerful lessons that comes from reflecting on personal loss is the importance of creating spaces for remembrance. This can take many forms, from keeping a photo album, writing letters to the departed, or even participating in rituals or cultural practices that honor the deceased. These acts of remembrance are essential for maintaining an emotional connection with the person we have lost, allowing us to keep their spirit alive in our hearts. Reflecting on the impact of these rituals can help us recognize that remembrance is not about holding on to the past in a way that prevents us from moving forward. It is about ensuring that the love and wisdom shared with the deceased continue to shape our lives. For some, this need for remembrance can evolve into the desire to create a legacy that honors the deceased. Reflecting on the life and values of the departed often prompts a desire to carry forward their memory by living in a way that aligns with the qualities they admired in them. For instance, if someone who passed away was known for their kindness and generosity, the living may feel compelled to adopt similar practices of kindness in their own life, continuing the deceased's work in a meaningful way. This can manifest as acts of charity, taking on causes that the deceased cared about, or simply living a life that reflects the values they embodied. The act of creating a legacy not only helps preserve the memory of the deceased, but also gives the living a sense of purpose and direction as they continue to navigate the journey of life. While the emotional pain of loss can feel overwhelming at times, personal reflection often leads to the realization that it is possible to find peace through acceptance. Acceptance is not about forgetting the person we lost or diminishing the significance of their role in our lives. Rather, it is about finding a way to live with the loss, to integrate it into our lives without allowing it to overshadow the beauty and potential of the future. Acceptance can take many forms, whether it is learning to forgive ourselves for things left unsaid, finding solace in the knowledge that our loved ones are at peace, or learning to embrace the changes that come with moving forward. Through acceptance, we come to understand that while the absence of the person is permanent, the impact they had on our lives can never be erased. Reflecting on loss also provides valuable lessons in compassion. When we have experienced the pain of losing someone, we develop a greater sense of empathy for others who are going through similar experiences. We begin to understand that grief is a universal experience, and we become more attuned to the emotions of those around us. This heightened sense of compassion allows us to offer support and understanding to others who are grieving, helping us to become a source of comfort in times of need. Reflecting on our own loss helps us recognize the importance of being present for others, offering a listening ear, or simply sitting in silence with someone who is mourning. In doing so, we create a supportive community that allows everyone to heal together. Moreover, personal reflection on loss often leads to a deeper exploration of spirituality and the search for meaning beyond this life. The death of a loved one can stir existential questions about the nature of life, the afterlife, and the larger purpose of existence. For some, this reflection leads to a renewed sense of faith or a deeper connection to their spiritual beliefs. Others may find meaning in secular philosophies or by adopting a more mindful approach to life. Whatever the spiritual journey may be, personal reflection on death encourages a more profound understanding of what it means to live and how to approach the mysteries of the unknown with grace and curiosity. Ultimately, the lessons we learn from personal reflection on death and loss are as varied and individual as the people who experience them. While the process of mourning can be painful and disorienting, it also offers us an opportunity to grow emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. These reflections allow us to make peace with the past, to learn from the lives of those we have lost, and to embrace the future with a renewed sense of purpose and connection. Through these lessons, we not only honor those who have passed, but also deepen our understanding of what it means to live fully and love deeply. The balance between acceptance and remembrance is a delicate dance, one that can be both healing and challenging for those who have experienced loss. While the two concepts may seem like opposing forces, acceptance signifying letting go and remembrance representing holding on, there is a profound interconnectedness between them. Together, they create a framework for navigating grief, allowing individuals to move forward while keeping the memories of their loved ones alive in meaningful ways. The process of balancing these elements is not linear, nor is it the same for everyone. It is a deeply personal journey, shaped by individual experiences, beliefs, and the nature of the relationship with the deceased. Acceptance in the context of loss is not about forgetting or erasing the person who has passed. Rather, it is the ability to come to terms with the reality of their absence. It involves recognizing that death is a natural part of life, a transition that is beyond our control, and learning to live with the emotional void left behind. Acceptance is often considered the final stage of grief, but in truth, it is an ongoing process that unfolds gradually. It requires acknowledging the pain, the sadness, and the longing, while also making room for the possibility of healing and growth. The challenge with acceptance lies in the emotional complexity of loss. There is no simple way to move on after someone we love dies, and the idea of acceptance can sometimes feel like a distant, unreachable goal. For some, the act of accepting loss may feel like a betrayal to the memory of the deceased, as though letting go means forgetting or dishonoring them. However, acceptance is not about letting go of the person. It is about letting go of the pain that holds us captive. It means making peace with the reality that death has separated us from them physically, while acknowledging that their influence, love, and memory continue to shape our lives. In contrast, remembrance serves as a bridge between the past and the present, allowing us to keep our loved ones close even as we accept their absence. Remembrance is an act of love, of holding on to the essence of a person and the moments we shared. It involves finding ways to honor the life that was lived and the impact that person had on us and others. Through remembrance, we keep the memory of the deceased alive, not in the sense of clinging to the past, but in the way that allows their legacy to continue influencing our thoughts, actions, and emotions. Remembrance can take many forms, some subtle, others more overt. For some, it may be through physical mementos, photographs, jewelry, letters, or keepsakes that remind them of their loved one. For others, it might be through rituals or celebrations that honor the person's life, such as lighting a candle on the anniversary of their death or telling stories about them during family gatherings. Remembrance can also be an internal practice, such as reflecting on the lessons they taught us or the values they instilled in us. In all these forms, remembrance is a way to keep the spirit of the deceased present in our lives, even as we continue to move forward. The challenge, however, is finding a balance between these two elements, acceptance and remembrance. Too much emphasis on one can lead to emotional stagnation or a sense of disconnect from the reality of the loss. On one hand, holding on to memories too tightly, without allowing ourselves to accept the absence of the person, can result in a form of attachment that prevents us from living fully in the present. This can manifest as an ongoing sense of longing, nostalgia, or even resentment, where we are unable to embrace the future because we are so anchored in the past. This form of unbalanced remembrance can become a source of pain, as it keeps us tethered to what we cannot change. On the other hand, an overemphasis on acceptance without remembrance can lead to a sense of emotional detachment or disconnection from the deceased. While acceptance is necessary for healing, forgetting the person or neglecting their memory can leave us feeling as though a vital part of ourselves is missing. It may feel as though we are abandoning the relationship or the connection we shared with the person. This can create an emotional void, where we are left with a sense of emptiness and a lack of closure. Without remembrance, the healing process may feel incomplete, as if the person's presence in our lives has been entirely erased. Therefore, the key lies in finding a healthy balance that allows both acceptance and remembrance to coexist in a way that supports emotional well-being and personal growth. This balance is not static. It shifts over time as we progress through the stages of grief and healing. In the early days after a loss, remembrance may dominate, as we are consumed with grief and find comfort in the memories of the deceased. As time passes, the need for acceptance may become more prominent, as we begin to understand that life must go on, and that healing requires letting go of the constant pain. However, even as acceptance deepens, remembrance continues to play a vital role, ensuring that the person remains an important part of our lives, even if they are no longer physically present. To find this balance, It can be helpful to create intentional spaces for both acceptance and remembrance. One way to achieve this is through rituals or practices that allow for both. For example, some people find comfort in visiting the gravesite of a loved one, not as a way of clinging to the past, but as a way to honor and reflect on their life. Others may keep a journal in which they express their grief, while also writing about the positive memories and the lessons they learned from the person they lost. These practices help integrate both acceptance and remembrance, allowing for emotional release while also keeping the connection alive. Another way to find balance is through the support of others. Sharing our memories and experiences with friends, family, or support groups can help reinforce the sense of connection and belonging. Even as we learn to accept the loss, talking about the deceased, telling their stories, and celebrating their life with others can provide a sense of continuity and comfort. At the same time, it can also help us accept that life is continuing, that we are not alone in our grief, and that it is possible to move forward while still honoring the past. Ultimately, the balance between acceptance and remembrance is an ongoing process, one that requires patience, compassion, and self-awareness. It is about learning to navigate the complex emotions that come with loss, allowing space for both sorrow and joy, grief and healing. Through this balance, we can find peace, knowing that our loved ones continue to live on in our hearts, in our memories, and in the lives they touched. Acceptance allows us to move forward with courage and resilience, while remembrance ensures that we never forget the love and the legacy they left behind. In the face of loss, reflection and connection serve as vital tools for healing. They help us come to terms with the grief that arises from the death of a loved one and enable us to find ways to live with the absence while still cherishing the memories. It is easy to become consumed by the sadness and despair that often accompany death. But it is in reflecting on the life lived and connecting to the shared experiences that we begin to make sense of our emotions and start to heal. The call to reflect and connect is a gentle reminder that while death marks the end of a physical life, it does not have to be the end of the emotional or spiritual connection we have with those who have passed. Reflection invites us to pause and think about the person we lost, what they meant to us, the impact they had on our lives, and the lessons they taught us. In doing so, we honor their existence and preserve their memory, ensuring that their influence continues to guide us, even in their absence. Connection, on the other hand, goes beyond reflection. It is about maintaining an active bond with the deceased, one that transcends the boundaries of life and death. Connecting with the memory of a loved one is not about keeping them in the past, but about carrying them with us into the present and future. Whether it's through sharing stories, rituals, or even a personal practice, connection allows us to keep our loved ones close, ensuring they are never forgotten. In a world where the pace of life is often fast and relentless, it's easy to push grief aside in favor of getting back to normal. Yet, grieving is not something that can be rushed or ignored. It requires time, patience, and the willingness to sit with difficult emotions. Reflection gives us the opportunity to slow down and process our grief. By taking the time to reflect on the life of the deceased, we can gain new insights and find ways to appreciate the moments we shared. This practice of reflection is not just about remembering the past, but also about finding meaning in the present. It allows us to discover how the lessons, values, and wisdom passed on by the deceased can continue to shape our lives moving forward. For many, the act of remembering and reflecting on the life of someone who has passed can bring a sense of comfort. The process of telling stories, recalling fond memories, and celebrating milestones or anniversaries can help keep the bond alive. It's important to understand that these acts of reflection do not prolong the pain, but instead provide an opportunity to affirm that the person's legacy is still present in our lives. These reflections can serve as an anchor in the turbulent sea of grief, providing stability and a sense of continuity. Connection, on the other hand, invites us to find ways to keep the deceased close to our hearts in an ongoing manner. While reflection may be a solitary practice, connection can take on many forms, depending on what feels right to the individual. For some, this connection might be expressed through a ritual, lighting a candle on the anniversary of their passing, visiting their grave, or offering a prayer. For others, It may be through continuing to live in a way that honors their memory, such as living by the values they cherished or sharing their wisdom with others. Some people may find comfort in keeping a physical memento, a piece of jewelry, a photograph, or an item that held special meaning to both them and the deceased. These objects can serve as a tangible reminder of the bond that remains, even though the physical presence is no longer there. Importantly, connection does not require constant grief or sadness. It can be experienced as a quiet and gentle presence, one that offers solace and comfort without overwhelming our daily lives. It's a form of connection that does not demand that we live in the past, but encourages us to integrate the memory of the deceased into our present lives. By doing so, we keep them alive in our hearts while still moving forward. One of the most profound ways to connect with those we've lost is by continuing the work they started, the causes they cared about, or the dreams they had for the future. Many people find solace in carrying on the passions and aspirations of the deceased, whether it's through charity work, artistic endeavors, or simply living a life that aligns with their loved one's values. This act of continuation not only honors the memory of the person, but also strengthens the emotional connection, creating a legacy that lives on long after death. Another significant way to connect is through the sharing of stories and experiences. Talking about the deceased with others, whether it's friends, family, or even strangers, can help maintain the memory and connection. Storytelling allows us to relive moments of joy, love, and even pain, while also providing an opportunity to keep the person's memory alive. These conversations create a shared space where the life of the deceased can continue to be celebrated and remembered. But perhaps one of the most essential calls to reflect and connect is the recognition that grief is not something to be fixed, solved, or cured. It is a natural response to loss, and it requires time and space. Reflection and connection provide avenues for that time and space to exist in a healthy and meaningful way. They give us the opportunity to honor our feelings of sadness, loss, and longing, while also encouraging us to embrace the hope that comes with healing. The ability to reflect and connect allows us to process the pain of loss while also finding new ways to live, love, and grow. For those who are grieving, it is essential to remember that there is no right way to reflect or connect. Each person's journey is unique, and the process is deeply personal. What feels healing for one person may not feel right for another, and that is okay. It's important to give ourselves permission to grieve in the way that we need to, without judgment or pressure to conform to societal expectations. Reflection and connection are individual practices, and each person will find their own path toward healing. In closing, the call to reflect and connect is a powerful invitation to honor the memory of those we have lost while also finding ways to live fully in the present. It encourages us to create a bridge between the past and the future, allowing the love and wisdom of the deceased to continue to shape our lives. Through reflection, we gain clarity, understanding, and comfort, and through connection, we keep the bond alive, ensuring that those who have passed are never truly gone from our hearts. It is through this reflection and connection that we find the strength to heal, to grow, and to continue living with the love and memories of our loved ones by our side.